All right, great to see you guys for live stream 131. And let's start off with Tolemykus's quote here, which is a darn good one. I just finished, well, I just read it a couple minutes ago. Peace seems as far off as ever, yet all Europe bleeds for want of it. Editorial, The Manchester Guardian, October 19th, 1917, expressing public war weariness and frustration over the continued slaughter. I don't know about you guys, but that for me, why I find a bit of an eye opener. it's Manchester up there. They're pretty work related as far as I'm concerned. So I would assume they would have been like still pretty pro war, as well as I didn't know that there was this much war weariness going on, because I'm only getting the information from from the Globe newspaper, and that seems to be a heck of a lot more. Very pro-war. They don't seem to be very much, they're getting a lot of the official bits. So thank you very much for that, Tolemykus. And let's, Harro, Bosma, you're going to be here soonish, but maybe you're listening. Great to see you, Charles Latora. I'm glad to hear that you're on the mend. Jeepers jumping. Yeah, I didn't like seeing that little short. A lot of people didn't see that for sure. And who else is here for now? Let's see. And let's hope to goodness gracious that, hey, Meandering Mike, can you see? Yes, you can. I'm wearing your shirt. I'm going to have to talk about this in a minute here. This has been it. Well, you guys are going to find out in a bit. How about let's put on, we'll leave your quote on here for a bit, Tolemykus, because some people are just popping in. But I'm going to, we're going to pop on your new thing here. How about that? Government quotes from both sides said they were gaining the upper hand from the latest battles. Yeah, this is the other thing. Well, we're going to hopefully get on with it anyways. Hold on here. Let me put in add this one to stage. I got to remove this one. I'm going to add that one. Boink. You guys can see it. Excellent. Oh, Charles Latora, you're not really on the mend. Well, okay. How's that? It was nice to see you that you were back on the whatever and not, I saw you at the live stream there on Wednesday with Not Jay. So that it was nice to see. So anyways, here we go for October 5th to the 18th, 1917. Welcome everyone. As per live stream fact checker. Yeah, please let me know what the heck you've been up to the past couple of weeks. I should change that around. Oh, great to see you, Brian R. Smith. Hope you're doing well. Anyways, these are just, like I said before, I pop in things that I've seen in the articles or in the war summary. And this I must have written about a couple of weeks ago because I can't remember why. Well, I mean, I know why, in the sense that Sweden's been mentioned often lately, and as a neutral, and I just noticing they're always trying to make it look like, oh, like this bad neutral, look what they're doing, so this is why we have to up the ante with the blockades and so on and so forth. Anyways, I just put this down, specific terms to be considered a neutral. I think it was because one of the articles was mentioning something about, boy, does Sweden ever push the boundary of what a neutral really is, and I was like, what the heck does that mean? And then Professor Harald Hajarne, I don't know who he is. It obviously was someone I wanted to go and find out about. Anyways, here we go. Remember, if you see in quotes, it's from the article, and the other stuff is just my crazy thoughts or whatever. The revolution in Russia has robbed Swedish pro-Germans of their strongest defense of Prussian autocracy. I just added that in yet again because of the like I said, just trying to always seem like they're always, even I'm noticing now, ever since the Tsar has left, Russia and whatnot, they're now like, oh, all the time trying to find any connections with the Tsar and the Kaiser and so on and so forth. And away we go. Remember, when I see I'll put little question marks there too. I'm kind of hoping you guys will fill in the blanks for me, which would be wonderful. And we can share it with everyone. Kaiser's plot of 1905 against Denmark. Like, what the heck is this all about? The Russian Plan G. And that was found out, I guess this is part at the very beginning in the Eastern Front. Well, obviously for Russia. They're against, and this was them, oh, shoots. I can't remember what army it was. The Fourth Army would have been sent up with the First Army up near Tannenberg and whatnot, as far as I know. So that would have been, I just didn't know about this. And I thought, well, I've never seen this mentioned in gaming purposes for anybody doing the opening moves for Tannenberg or anything like that. Could I have for example, an option to use Russian Plan G and bring one of the armies up there. Anyways, that's it. I just wanted to bring that up. Austrian attempts to stay the development of the Italian plans for continuation of the advance so well begun some weeks ago are not meeting with much success. And I think most of us know what the heck's around the corner. October 24th, 1917. I just found out this week they were actually wanted to start it off 2 days earlier, but there was bad weather or whatever. Caporetto is around the corner. Hopefully we'll talk a bit more about Caporetto during this hour for sure. In the Baltic, and this is part of it, actually, connecting the dots, which I didn't find out about, but now I'm finding out more about Caporetto. I didn't really know too much about Caporetto, except I knew that the Italians get spanked big time, and that it actually wakes up a lot of the people for their fear, because they're like, oh my God, they're on the doorsteps of Venice and so on and so forth. It almost seems to like galvanize them into a national feeling of like, look, we are actually fighting for Italy now, and so on and so forth. Anyways, in the Baltic, the activity of German warships and airplanes is disturbing because they're just about to take over Riga and just go roughshod over everything. This I found rather neat. Well, I found rather comical the next day in the newspaper. So anyways, one day they put this in the article, the British steamroller, and they're going on and on and on about how amazing the British Army's doing up near, near Passchendaele and whatnot. And then the very next day, the British steamroller was held up yesterday by rain and mud. I just thought that was rather ironic. The Germans report a battle in the air in which 80 airplanes took part. To this day, I'm still like, wow, like just the whole thought of 80 of those planes zipping around in the air at once. It's just mind-boggling. The Kaiser is reported to be about ready to visit King Ferdinand at Sofia. And there's no doubt that the Bulgarian ruler and his advisors are in need of tonic from their master. I just find that amazing that, he's putting these little things on the side. Oh my gosh. Here's another thing. If we're going to look at the images later on when we get to the articles bits, is that I think I've mentioned this before, is that I found a very big difference in the way the German text is portrayed, is read out when William Arends gives us the translations, and seems very different than the English bits. But last week, when I found I found some official texts from Hague, and I went, oh my gosh, this actually sounds very similar in style to a lot of the German stuff. And I went, of course, when they go from the office of the Crown Prince Ruprecht or whatever, and then they go through that, I'm like, of course, now I can see the similar style. Anyways. Supposedly Russian-made shells that were captured by the Germans are being used on the Western Front right now. And what I find interesting is it says they're being used on the Western Front. We're going to find out in a little bit when we start talking about Caporetto and whatnot, and that Houtier, I'm not sure if he was, he must have been up in Riga, because they said that they capitalized on his tactics, the Houtier tactics or whatever, and that he was using gas shells. And this is a new thing that they see later on in the 12th battle, the Caporetto battle, an extensive use of gas shells by the Austro-Germans. And I'm wondering, are some of these Russian shells also made it to the Italian front? I have no idea. Britain continues to pay the price of keeping ships at sea. Yeah, but that's the only way you're going to get food, for goodness sakes. 2 German submarines were destroyed in the Western Mediterranean during the last week of September. I didn't know there were German submarines in the Mediterranean, so that was an eye-opener for me. Expected to see Americans mentioned fighting along the Western Front anytime now. I don't know when they actually start, but a lot of articles are starting to mention, like, oh, when are they coming? Or when are they actually going to see some action? Because they're already there. British air raid reprisals into German territory appear to have commenced. Remember, we've been talking about this for a few weeks, where the British were like, we'll never do that, even though the public are clamoring for, smack them back kind of thing. And they're like, no, we'll never, hit civilian targets. It's perhaps this is going to happen. We know the French have already been doing it. The American and Canadian coasts have been declared war zones. I already thought they had, so I was rather surprised about that, or at least the Canadian coast was. update on which World War I related games people have played. I picked up the second version of, I don't know, Brian R. Smith will perhaps correct me if I get this wrong, version of Adjutant Introuvable. It's that solo thing. Let's see if I can find it very quickly, if I can pop it on here. I picked up the second version, and what I would like to do with this thing is, you guys are going to see it once I get it on here. I have to stop the screen. I'm going to show you the new one. And let's hope to God, guys, that my computer doesn't crap out severely. So hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah, this is the thing. I think I've mentioned this before. I had the first version. I picked this up for $14 Canadian in the PDF last night. And what I would like to do with this, it says here's a 14-page rule book providing strategizing opponent to battle against. Good for solo war games. I've used it before with my miniatures and ancients, even though this was geared, the first version was geared for Napoleonics. I had a good time with it. I thought it was quite good. I don't know if there's any images that is nothing amazing about it, but I really enjoyed it. And so what I would like to do is see if I can use this as some kind of solo play for maybe a core level or whatever in World War I or something. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm hoping. And I'm going to pop in the new screen. If I can find it, we'll go back to the narrative. Blink, blink. There we go. Hey, William Arends, I'm so bloody glad to see you. It's not funny. There we go. Let me get back to the, there we go. Yep. Super glad to see you. And William Arends, and well, you already saw that. I sent you a previous email. And away we go. Now we're going to get up to the articles and take a look at some of this stuff. Let's go. Now this guy, yeah, we can go to it. I'm just trying to keep abreast of the time here. Let's see here. I'm going to share this screen so we can get into the articles a little bit. Where are you, you little brat? Are you doing this now? Please don't do this. Nope, it's there. There. Let's see. Oops. I want you. Cancel. Share this. Nope. I want to share the screen, a window. Okay, let's see. There we go. Thank goodness. I was getting scared that my computer was already starting to do it all over again. Let me get rid of me so you guys can start seeing more stuff. Per plink. And so this guy here, I just noticed, what a bummer that you can't read the whole thing. I went and checked the bigger screen for it, and I couldn't find it as well. Hold on, let me see if I can get a bigger thing for you here. The Bold Knight of the Skies is the Italian poet aviator. Charles Latora, and I guess other people have noticed as well, or perhaps, it seems to me like the Italians seem to be at the forefront of aviation right now. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I know the Russians are doing pretty darn good, but I keep hearing a lot of records being broken and a lot of stuff being done with the Italians. Their Caproni bombers are really super fantastic. Oh my gosh, there's actually going to be a talk about the Caproni. No, there's an article in the upcoming World War I Historical Association magazine coming up, which Meandering Mike's a member of. So he'll be getting a copy of the magazine coming. And it's got a thing on Caproni bombers. Anyways, Gabriele D'Annunzio gives a vivid account of his daring night attack on the port of Cattaro. And hold on here, let me get to him very quickly. See if I can. It's in the links. Where are you, you little brat? There you are. I should have put him as a PDF. That would have been much better for me. Hey, great to see you, Harro Bosma. Glad you're not just listening. Okay, I'll pop you here. So this guy here, I just wanted to quickly show you why you guys can't see a bloody thing. Hold on here. There we go. And so it's this guy here, Gabriele D'Annunzio, and he seems like one of an interesting character. But anyways, he's like an Italian poet, playwright, orator, journalist, aristocrat, and he was the guy that went that did that crazy thing with the where does it say here? During World War I, Image in Italy transformed a literary figure to a national war hero. He was associated with the elite Arditi stormtroops of the Italian army and took part in the actions such as the fight over Vienna. I think those Arditi, are those the ones that with that crazy armor plating? Let's find out. They had the weird daggers. Look at that. Jesus H. Christ. My God. Looks like they're like straight out of Sicily, for goodness sakes, or something. Anyways, let's get back to, I want to share the pictures, correct? Yes. Hold on here. There we go. I just want to make sure that we're not going to, I don't want to kill, like I want to get into some of the other stuff very quickly. So let's see here. Anyways, I wanted to find out more about him. Let's get to the next articles. Well, I just found that this rather interesting, just the name of the name of the, I'm sorry if I'm being whatever, but I was like, as soon as I saw the name, I just went, oh, bottoms up, British cruiser Champagne is sunk. And then this one here I thought was rather kind of a bit of a bummer. I'll see if you see at the bottom here. It says, young aviator flirts with death. And I guess Billy Bishop is doing a little tour or whatever back in Canada. But it's this poor little bugger. Anyways, a cadet followed him on their plane and decided to try to do the stunts too. And says in the air, meanwhile, another machine was a cadet, flown very little in his young life, seeing such an auspicious example. He went and did it. He did them. All right, he made it. He didn't kill anybody or kill himself. And then they say here, though, Major Bishop was congratulated. However, the cadet was placed under close arrest for daring to deviate in the slightest degree. I'm like, oh, you poor bugger. I'd love to find out who the heck that person was. Jesus, man. Anyways, let's see if I can go back to there we go. Oh, it says 1-to-1. I don't know what the hell that is. And then to teach French, and yet again, I just wanted to keep an eye out on what the developments right now with the Canadian Militia Act and conscription and the deviation between French-speaking Canadians and English-speaking Canadians. But I still wanted to look and see that there's still a lot of good vibes still going on essentially there. But then later, anyways, here, captured. I want to find out who this person is. General Count von Meyer, head of the German Air Service in the Black Sea District. I was like, that sounds rather interesting. When they caught him. Enemy building new Leviathans. And I went, is this the first time we've ever heard of the Hindenburg Zeppelin? Hold on here. Let's see if I can get it to the width. Here we go. There we go. It says here, I've never even heard of the Columbus. Does anybody know about the Columbus? And it says, and the Hindenburg, larger than any liners yet attempt. And I just thought, interesting that, because so is that them being built in World War I? And then, away they go. Can you guys see that? Not really. So let me put it to there. On Airman. I wonder if this would work. Yeah, that's not too bad, actually. I'm shocked. Hun Airman praises the British flyers, and it's Mr. von Richthofen. Daredeviltry personified, says Major von Richthofen of them. I just thought that was rather neat. And then Quebec's first snow. So we're lucky, Brian R. Smith, because I'm right near you. As you know, only about an hour and a half away. And but there's no snow here. Tons of grass, and 8 inches of snow fell around Quebec on the 8th of October, right there, and it caused a lot of grief. Let's see what else I've got going on here. Shrapnel corners. I was just thought, what the heck is this thing? And I blocked it off a little bit of the blocks here, and it says for shrapnel corner to the reflecting person is one of the saddest peeps in Toronto, though oddly enough, actually one of the cheeriest. It is the name that has stuck. Someday when war is over, it may be even historic to the corner of Yonge and College Streets. I wonder if it is. Here on 4 or 5 park benches may be seen every afternoon about 30 or 40 returned wounded men from the Central Military Hospital close by. I just thought, wow, what an interesting term. But then we go down to here because I noticed a little bit of a poem when I was reading the article. And it says, in which Goldsmith has told us of in The Deserted Village, when at the minister's home, the broken soldier kindly bade to stay, sat by his fire and talked the night away, wept o'er his words, or tales of sorrow done, shouldered his crutch and showed how fields are won. I was like, Jesus. Well, and then I was like, well, is that the whole poem? What is going on here? And let's see if I can find a little bit more about Mr. Oliver Goldsmith, which I found another interesting parallel with what's going on Ireland right now, as we know about last year with the March Rising, and there's still a lot of brouhaha going on right now about what to do with giving them home rule. So hold on here. I want to make sure that you guys can pop on here. Here we go. And there's the deserted village. I'll get rid of me so you guys can see them a little bit bigger. And it says The Deserted Village is a poem by Oliver Goldsmith published in 1770. It's a work of social commentary and condemns rural depopulation and the pursuit of excessive wealth. And there he is. He grew up in the hamlet of Lissoy in Ireland. And I just went, isn't that interesting? Another connections. Hold on here. Go back to the share the screen. Where are we here? Boink, boink, boink. And then I go back to that funky thing. Here we go. And who else is next? Let's find out. Shrapnel Corners. I did that one. Let's go to this. This I just found rather weird. This happened on the same day, guys, in the newspapers, but like in different pages. Jamaicans want fish. And I went, okay. And then a little later on, Ecuador wants milk. I was just like, what the hell's going on? Is this like some kind of like secret code that people like in espionage are using? And this is like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I just thought it was rather interesting. You know what I mean? Because it could be in a weirdo way. Think about this. Like, I mean, it just like, no, I just found that odd. Anyways, William Arends says, the wiki article about D'Annunzio said that he attempted to set himself up as Duce after the war. I often wonder if Richthofen could have himself as a better strongman alternative for Germany. Oh, nice one, William Arends. And nice that, thank you, William Arends, for mentioning D'Annunzio again, because now you brought me up and that you said that he did attempt to set himself up. And Mussolini wasn't too bloody impressed with him, but he realized, I think that, what the hell did he say? It's not exact quote, but Mussolini says, what do you do with a bad tooth? You can either pull it out, AKA I kill him, or you fill it with gold. And that's basically, I guess, what he did. He just gave him a little pension and just shut your effing mouth kind of thing and let me go and become a freaking whatever. So thank you very much for that, William Arends. Interesting, eh? If Richthofen would have did something like that. Anyways, let's get back to this. Wow. Tolemykus, we've got to do something wacky, weird with these things. Let's go to, oh yeah, and you actually did talk about this earlier on Wednesday there on Not Jay's show, when I was mentioning that the Chicago White Sox went against, I guess, what, the New York Giants or something. And their team received $90,000, and you were able to convert that into like 2.2 million or something like that. Anyways, let's get back to, I want to make sure that we're getting into the narrative. Where's the narrative? There you are. Thank you. Boink. So, okay, we've done that. I'm going to get to the Tolemykus. Where the hell happened? What happened to number 6? Wonder if Tolemykus, we're going to keep you on. Oh, no, that's just the engagement question of the week. Because I was like, what the hell's going on here? We shouldn't have your trivia thing because, I mean, your logic puzzle. The logic puzzle should be coming after the trivia thing. So anyways, here's this week's Tolemykus engagement question of the week. How did the Tsarist aristocracy attempt to protect their interests and secrets as the monarchy fell? I would say a lot of it, as well as thinking about not just the secrets bit, is, yeah, exactly, about burning. I'm sure the Entente, remember what we're going to find out in a little while when I guess the Bolsheviks start releasing a lot of the information that's been held up. And it's going to be a lot of, what do they call it? Egg or whatever on the other Entente's faces when they start finding out about all these secret alliances that they've been setting up and so on and so forth. So, yep, I would say that's one. Probably a lighter. Or, well, they didn't have lighters back then, but you get it. Anyways, this is here. We're going to have to start talking about this because this has been one of the weirdest trivia things this week I've ever experienced. I had to talk to a friend of mine yesterday about it. I was like, this is weird. What the hell happened here? So I'm just going to say this. Meandering Mike, you already know the answer. So you're allowed to ask, throw in clues, but just throw in crazy clues, please, if that makes any sense. And the beautiful thing is, oh, thanks, William Arends. White Sox versus the Cincinnati Reds in the 1919 World Series, the famous Black Sox gambling scandal. Oh, really? I don't know anything about that thing. What happened? You guys could fill each other in or whatever. Look at this, three-way tie for for second place. Okay, Meandering Mike's going to get a point right off the bat. Yes, Meandering Mike. I can't wait to talk about the answer afterwards because it's freaky. It's like, this is too much, too weird. It was amazing. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So anyways, that's it. Look at this. And then we got Charles Latora and Harro Bosma duking it out a little bit there as well. That I think is pretty sweet. Anyways, here we go. We're going to get into the first clue. I thoroughly enjoyed doing this. And then, like I said, it was like a cherry on top at the very end when something happened yesterday. And I went, you've got to be joking. This is nuts. Anyways, here's your first clue. Patton only has 48 pages for his wiki entry, while I have 78. Who or what am I? And I'm going to pop that into the clues, into the thing. So that's your first clue. Patton only has 48 pages for his wiki entry, while I have 78. And Tolemykus says, players allegedly being paid to throw the game. Okay, I get you. It must be so easy too, for baseball. Like, oops, I admit I dropped it or whatever. I mean, it must be pretty easy. Oh, I just couldn't. I don't know what the hell. Just can't hit it. Anyways. And here's your second clue. Plop that one in. Oh, please, William Arends, give me a break. Are you kidding me? Holy cow. Well done, William Arends. That's insanity. No, William Arends, you did it. You did it. You did it. You got it. Erwin Rommel. Good God, man. How the hell did you do that? Oh, my goodness. Oh, gracious me. That's insanity. Hold on here. I got to give you points. Jesus. Okay, let me finish off the clues. Goodness gracious. Well done. That was amazing. Oh my God. I'm sorry, that blew me away. I'm like, what? Okay, so we're going to get rid of that. So we don't have to show you that. So yeah, when I looked up the wiki entry for, I'll tell you how I ended up getting Patton, and this is the reason why I started doing this. Anyways, I looked up. I noticed that Rommel was 78 pages, and I also know that, for example, Patton and Rommel both were in World War I, both ended up in World War II, both ended up in Africa, and I think both are in that game. Patton's first victory, which Meandering Mike had played, and I had played. And I went, okay, let's have some fun with this because I wanted to do a trivia thing on Caporetto. And that's why, and then I found out, I wasn't sure. I was talking to Meandering Mike a little while ago. I was like, did Rommel was Rommel at Caporetto? And sure enough, he was. Not only sure enough, he was instrumental. And when they started, I was watching a bit of a show from, from the Great War Channel. And yet again, let me get into the other ones here. Here's the other ones. One of my brothers was a dentist and another an opera singer. I'm just blown away how quickly William Arends got that. Holy smokes. And here's the third clue. Meandering Mike has an interesting connection with me and the guy mentioned in clue number 1. Because also Meandering Mike keeps mentioning to me to read this book, Infantry Attacks. That was my old copy. Okie doke. Now you're going to start seeing all these weird connections. So, like I said, I picked the topic, Erwin Rommel. Used Meandering Mike for one of the clues because of the connections. And also, Meandering Mike keeps mentioning, you read that bloody book because it's amazing because I'm bringing up stuff. And he goes, Rommel talks about that. And he's like, you won't believe it. It gets on a knife edge because Rommel's like, keeps taking another risk. And you're like, man, your luck's going to run out. You know the way Meandering Mike talks about it. Anyways, then I'm watching that special, and lo and behold, the guy says in the special, and Rommel just kept pushing his luck kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so neat. Anyways, and there we go. So I'm going to go on to the further bits here. I was quoted as saying war without hate. And that was in World War II. I don't know if that's true. I was in military service from 1911 to 1944. And I chose forced suicide over public humiliation and execution. I guess he was partially part of that assassination attempt on what's his diddle. And there it is, Erwin Rommel. Holy smokes. Yeah. It's like, well, you should be getting was it the pool, that special, just absolutely. I'm absolutely blown away, William Arends. Absolutely blown away. Well done, man. Do I have any? Yes, I do. Let me pop him in very quickly so you guys can see him very quickly, I think. There he is, the dude. Was there anything else? No, it was just that. There it is, infantry attacks. And anyways, and here's the lo and behold. So guess what I get in the mail yesterday? From guess who? Mr. Meandering Mike, who says this is a far, far better translation than the one you have. And oh, there's the award that yes, excellent, Meandering Mike. I love it. I love it. Pour le mérite. That's what you should be getting. William Arends for our trivia. How's that? Well done. Holy shoot. Anyways, let's get on to the other stuff. Oh man, that was a really good one. Thanks for that. Let's get on to the World War I narrative logic puzzles by Tolemykus. Yeah, let's do it. We've got 32 minutes. You're darn right we're going to do it. And let me switch on over to pictures. Oh, that was good. Anyways, like I said, Meandering Mike, when I got your book yesterday, after doing all that stuff with the trivia, and remember, I even said, I sent you an email earlier in the week going, you're in the clues. It's just the way it worked out. And then getting that book yesterday was just beyond belief. I was like, you got to be joking. This is so wild. So what an amazing week for the trivia. That was just fantastic. And what did I say I was going to do? Oh, yeah, we're going to go to the Tolemykus logic puzzles. And hopefully this will work this year. This time, as in, like, my computer doesn't freak out. And William Arends says, I think the story was that the conspirators wanted to put Rommel forward as the alternative to Hitler had they been successful. Okay, so maybe Hitler, Schittler there thought he should go rather than I don't know. I don't know much about World War II, to be honest with you. Hold on here. Except the good guys won. That's all I know. Thank God for that. And there seems to be a very different war than World War I. That is for sure. All right, so we got that, and we're going to get rid of me. Yep. No, we don't need to this time because I'm learning how to do this thing, I think. Nope. There we go. How's that? There we go. I think that's better. World War I narrative logic puzzles or freeforms scenario starters, the Nanguea edition for us. And today, Saving the Secrets of the Paris Gun, 1918. Boink. Saving the Secrets of the Paris Gun, 1918. By 1918, Germany had developed one of the most mysterious and devastating weapons of World War I, the Paris gun. Oh my gosh, and remember, didn't that, I don't know if they haven't talked about it yet because I haven't read it. Didn't they actually have to start using the curvature or worried about the curvature of the Earth? It took like 4.5 minutes to hit it or something. It was just nuts. Capable of firing shells over 75 miles. What the hell is that? Can someone convert that into hexes, please? To Weltkrieg hexes. Remember, 1 hex is equal to 20 kilometers. Can someone convert that? I would love to know. It bombarded Paris from behind enemy lines, spreading panic and confusion. Though its damage was limited compared to traditional artillery, The psychological impact was immense. How many miles does anybody? I wonder what the closest distance in miles is from the European, like the French coast, like Calais or something, to England. I'm just curious. In early August 1918, as the Allied 100 Days Offensive began to push German forces back, French intelligence intercepted a message suggesting that one of the remaining Paris guns had been left behind in a retreat. This weapon, if captured, could provide invaluable intelligence on German artillery technology. Are you flippin' kidding me? 6 hexes. Can you imagine having that type of weapon? I know it said it wasn't very effective, but that type of weapon in Der Weltkrieg. By the way, I can take a shot at you from 6 hexes away. What? I'm sorry, that is just a mind boggler and a half for me. In early August, anyway, so, oh yeah, I did finish that. Thanks. Wowzers. However, conflicting reports, are you serious? 6 hexes. Holy. However, conflicting reports emerged. A German prisoner claimed that the gun had been sabotaged and buried to prevent capture. A French air reconnaissance mission reported to a large artillery piece abandoned in the forest near Lyon. And you are right, Meandering, right? Because Tolemykus also mentioned it too. Local civilians swore they saw German engineers removing key parts and loading them onto a train heading east. A British patrol, it'd be interesting, if they were dumping off Russian gas shells and then picking up the Paris gun. Anyways, a British patrol found rail trucks torn up near a suspected Paris gun position, but no sign of the weapon. Intercepted radio chatter suggests that German sappers were preparing to detonate explosives near the site. With German forces withdrawing and a limited window before they could destroy the gun or recover it, Allied forces had to act quickly to secure or destroy the weapon before it could be used again. Question: as an Allied officer assigned to the operation, what is the best course of action? A, send a small infiltration team to sabotage any explosives and secure the weapon. B, launch an immediate artillery bombardment on the suspected gun location to prevent German retrieval. C, intercept the train reported by civilians and check if parts of the gun are aboard. D, conduct a careful ground search of the suspected area to confirm the air reconnaissance report. Or E, capture a German engineer alive and extract information on the weapon's location. Or F. Or F. I wonder what F would be. I don't know what the hell I would do. Launch an immediate artillery bombardment on the suspect. I think I'd go with B. Like, I don't want to risk. Oh, here we got an F. Did I not show it? There we go. Make some Earl Grey and keep a stiff upper lip. Oh, Meandering Mike, you know what's sad is you don't know about Canadian thing. What? Damn it! Not Tetley. It's oh darn it! I can't remember the T. But anyways, they always go pity because in England they can't get it. And so I'm just thinking about your little comment here. So let's find out what some other things here. Clues and false reports. French pilots confirmed seeing a long-barreled artillery piece, but visibility was poor. A German engineer's notebook was found with sketches of a dismantled Paris gun. The training question was found, but it carried only infantry, not artillery components. A civilian reported seeing German officers arguing near the gun's position the night before the retreat. A British signals unit detected coded German transmissions referencing a final charge. Ooh, what the heck? You might want some petroleum jelly for that lip. What do you say? I think that English channel is 25 miles or 40 kilometers wide. So you see where I'm coming here, William Arends? See where I'm going with this? I don't know what the heck you could hit from, like maybe some ports where they're doing troop transports or something. But could you? I don't. Could a Paris gun be put on a battleship? Just that thing. I don't know. All these crazy things I would love to know. Anyways, there we go. So now we're going to find out the best bit to do. Discussion topics. How did the Paris gun impact civilian morale in Paris during 1918? Why was artillery so vital in World War I? And how did it shape modern warfare? How did intelligence gathering play a role in stopping advanced weapons during the war? Could the Allies have developed a similar weapon if they had captured one intact? How did rapid technological advancements in World War I shape future conflicts? Remember, we saw this with the Germans 2 weeks ago when they captured one of the Livens projectors and made their own versions of it and whatnot. And what did William Arends says? A, the Allies are on the march, so why not send a recon team to capture the weapon, eh? All right, William Arends, I'm going with B, you're going with A. Let's see. Oops, well, pardon the pun. Better not be C. Oh, damn you! You're on with A, William Arends. The best answer is A. Send a small infiltration team to sabotage any explosives and secure the weapon. Does that not sound like a cool game? No, I don't know. Sounds a good scenario for me. Maybe play soldiers or something like that with that or something. I don't know if that's a big enough or too big of a scale for that. While bombardment B would destroy the weapon. Oops, hold on. I'm going to put in Tolemykus' thing. While bombardment B would destroy the weapon, it risked losing valuable intelligence. Intercepting the train C was a waste of resources as the intelligence turned out to be false. I know, but that's why I would go. At least they don't get it. I see what you mean, though. We would never figure it out. A slow ground search, D, would likely give the Germans time to destroy the gun. Capturing a German engineer, E, might yield intelligence, but not in time to prevent its destruction. By sending a small, fast-moving team, the Allies had a chance to disable the explosives, secure the gun, and extract technical information that could help counter German long-range artillery. Wow, well done, man. And next live stream, the rescue of the Austro-Hungarian spy, 1917. And what did you say, Tolemykus? The Paris gun on a ship would be more of a terror weapon, I would think. Neat. I like it. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that for now, and let's see what else. Oh, you guys can't see what the hell I'm showing. Hold on. There we go. Boink, boink. I want to get rid of hide. I can get rid of Erwin Rommel. It's got the links. We're good. You guys can see that. Goody. And now we're into Harro Bosma, Richtofen's War. And we're going to pop in your banner thingamajig that you had mentioned. Boink. Hey, Chris, just now brought this beauty in Holland, and we're about to go see it as soon as I pop her on up. Hold on. And also, I'm glad that you brought this up, Harro Bosma, because when I went to go and take a look at it, at first I was like, oh, a lot of people diss it. Hold on, let me get rid of me so you can see it more. Boink. And I'm just going to read your thing here. Hey, Chris, just now bought this beauty in Holland, city of Utrecht, for 25 euros on our way back to Dusseldorf. Hope we'll be back on time, which you are. Yeah, well, actually, that was for the last live stream 2 weeks ago, but you thought we had one. Anyways, you can see it yet again. You know, don't believe what BGG says, I guess, about the ratings. And it says in the forums here, like a lot of people are like, the rules don't work well. She get a new one, whatever, blah, blah, blah. However, when I went into these videos, this one here, if you're really interested, Harro Bosma is really, this guy's awesome. You guys can, it's going to show it to you. Goody.
What was I said? 5? So we roll a 9 at.
But anyways, you can see here, Harro Bosma.
Range of 5.
He goes
is gonna be
on
a
and on and
1.1
on. It's over an
damage.
hour long. It's freaking
So
awesome.
number 2 marks off.
So if you want to find out
Number
how to play
2.
this game, when you finally get it set up on your beautiful war table there, Harro Bosma, this guy can help you out for flip it,
What I'm
sure.
gonna do is I'm gonna
I popped him in there. So you got him there. I'm gonna pop him there. Boink, boink. We're still alive. We're still, it seems like I'm still here. Thank God for that. Let me get back to comments. Now we're going to go to the Italian Army operations in winter, and hopefully now we can start getting into Caporetto because we've got 15 minutes left, and I want to get into a lot of the stuff. I know, Harro Bosma. Really? Thanks, Meandering Mike. You know about him. This is so cool. Kemper has really great historical intro segments to his videos. Thanks. It's the first one I'd ever seen, and my jaw dropped. And then I went, wait a minute. I know that. Well, like I said, that's how it all started. And what? It's unpunched. Holy shoot! I didn't know that. And anyways, when I noticed this guy, and then I noticed that some people were like, "Oh, it's not the whatever." And then when I saw that video, I went, "Well, let's mention it to Harro for sure." Anyways, let's get into, see if I can find out if I can get into the into this here. Hold on. My playlists. We'll get into this, and that'll start us off into Caporetto. I certainly hope. 25 euros mint. Well done. Well done. Okay, you guys can see that. I know, William Arends. And it's not just that. Look at the map. You saw did you see the map? All those panels. It like you could use those for other games. I was mentioning that to Harro. Like I was like, as soon as I thought, I was like, wait a minute, we can do a lot of freaking cool stuff with that stuff. Anyways, let's get to here. It's only 47 seconds left. Oops. Just gonna. This thing's driving me mental. Well, you guys can't see it yet. Okay, hold on here. You. Blink. And hold on here. I want to make sure we know what it says. I thought I had it. Yes. Italian Army operations in winter during World War I. A column of Oops, I'll get rid of me. An Italian canvas-covered army trucks moves along a mountain road in the snow. Italian ski troops in a line walk on skis across a snowy slope. They then ski down the slope, and Italian army trucks and troops move on snow-covered hills. See what you're about to see. Took me longer to say it than the video is, for goodness sakes. But I thought this would bring us into Caporetto nicely. I hope, anyways, a little bit. Like I said, I know absolutely very little about Caporetto. This is another thing to bring in. Remember, Paul Hederer mentioning this about the Romania campaign as well, about trucks being really important for logistics because of the area. There was another nice thing I had mentioned to you. Remember, Meandering Mike, there about the 12th battle video that you did, the way you had to post the map there to get it in shot. And I was like, oh my God, it actually looks really good that way because it makes it look so mountainous. I thought that was really neat. And there we go. So that's that. Stop showing you this. And we get to that. And then get back to me here temporarily. What did you say? Richthofen's War in the time when it was selling 25,000 copies or more of the game. So there are a lot out there. But Unpunched is always a great find. Yep. And we saw that. And now we're going to get into, okay. What we're going to do is I have to show it to you this way. So I'm going to share the screen. All right. So, see where it says possible speaker topic for the World War I Historical Association? William Arends, I think I've mentioned this before, well, to everyone anyways, that I would like to cut my teeth eventually in doing an article for just a little one, small baby steps, World War I Historical Association. They're desperate for looking for people to do speaker topics in the future. I'd like to eventually get to that point. And then I went, wait a minute, why not do something that I already know quite a bit about? And I was like, why not discuss my experience specifically with you, William Arends, about coordinating information from the German newspapers and the English newspapers and our experiences following this, whatever. I just thought maybe that would be an interesting take on things. So that's something I'm thinking about, because I was like, why not talk about something I already know a ton about? I don't have to do a lot of research. I can just talk about my experiences. So that's something about to think about, is what I would like to do. Anyways, there. What is there in comparison? 2,500 copies is now considered a great selling war game. Wow! I didn't clue in, Meandering Mike, when you popped that down that it was selling 25,000. I didn't clue in, so thank you for that, for putting in this little bit here. So, anyways, now yes, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to have to go into this. Yep. Okay, you can see that. And then, well, you don't, but you're going to. And link, there you go. And let's see if we can let me do it. Are you gonna let me do it? It won't let me. It's not letting me do it anymore. Are you sure? Well, you guys can see this, correct? Good. It's letting me do that at least. How bizarre. So yeah, the computer's, like it said, it's freaking out again. But at least you guys can see that, so that I can do it temporarily. No window. So there you go. So this is what. So this is where you're going to see the next bit of copies. Sorry about the wacky, weird thing, but it's the only way I can show you some of the stuff right now. And I'm going to get into here. The Trentino offensive in June 1917. So I guess this is part maybe 10th and 11th battle of Isonzo. I don't know. It says Italy attacked in the Trentino sector to ensure that the Austro-Hungarians could not threaten the Isonzo front from the rear again. Italy had numerical superiority and expected to at least improve their positions in the region. And so this is what's coming up around the corner. Hopefully you guys can see that somewhat, a little bit. And then we're going to get into the Caporetto, 24th of October to the 1st of November. And I'm going to try to hopefully bring in some other stuff in a minute here. The Germans grew concerned enough about the Austro-Hungarian position in the Isonzo to plan an attack, even though they had little intention of staying there. They sought only to help alleviate the immediate crisis in the sector. German forces used the same infiltration tactics they had employed at Riga, which we're hopefully going to talk about in a minute. Because remember, Riga just fell right now, and now the Germans are well, you're drawing right there. It's only 6 days away. Are bringing as many of their specialized Alpini troops, all kinds of really cool stuff. They also used overwhelming artillery support, introduced air squadrons, and fired 1,000 gas shells in a theater that had not seen much use of gas weapons. Italy was caught by surprise, and a mass retreat began. And we're going to hopefully, I'm just trying to find out where the hell we are. Oh yeah, that's right. I've got to remember that I'm on this weird screen here. Nope. So there we go. Let's see where we're at. You see everything. So we get to there. Okay, now we get to Caporetto. That's right. So here's the next bit. Oh, excellent, William Arends. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We're going to be talking about it at some point. So we're going to get to the window. So that's from this book. Great book. And you guys can't see a bloody thing, so I'll bring it out bigger. There you guys can see it. So there's a little bit here. Caporetto was one of the most dramatic battles of the First World War. Inside 3 days, the forces of the Central Powers destroyed most of the Italian Second Army and went on to achieve the only major breakthrough by the Allied powers on any Western front during the whole war. The last battle of the greatest mountain campaign in history also saw the introduction of the Houtier tactics, which I'd like to talk to very quickly, that were to influence military thinking for decades to come. The contrast between the Italian dominance in the previous 11 battles and their abject defeat at Caporetto was staggering. The Italian government collapsed and Cadorna was sacked after some vicious infighting. So how did this volte-face come about? 4 major factors influenced the result, according to this author. Strategic changes that occurred after the 11th battle, the character of the armies involved, the introduction of the Houtier tactics, and the actual conduct of the battle itself. So let's see if we can find out a little bit more. There's some more of those trucks bringing in some stuff. Where was it? He also followed up Lloyd George's earlier support to seek help in the provision of divisions and artillery. I was wondering about this. Like, I was like, why aren't they helping the Italians here? If you know what I mean, if they've been making progress, especially, and we're about to see in a minute, the Benzitsa Plateau. I was like, what the hell is this about? Because that actually supposedly spurred on the Germans to say, wait a flipping minute, we better help out the Austrians here. Lloyd George desperately wanted to curb Haig's power, but the advisors he sent to Italy were not impressed by Cadorna, and the promised support was limited. Therefore, on the 18th of September, Cadorna instructed Capello and the Duke of Aosta, commanders of the 2nd and 3rd armies respectively, to suspend all offensive plans and take whatever measures were necessary. I can't remember which one, Capello or the Duke. One did the smart thing, which Meandering Mike would know about, because Rommel made his men do it, which is once improve your positions once you dig in. Improve your positions once you dig in. Great to see you, Mini Warmat. Hope you're doing great, man. And so there we go. Let's see what the next little tiddly bit is here. Oh, there it is. However, the loss of the Benzitsa Plateau changed Hindenburg's mind. He was now prepared to release Austro-Hungarian and German divisions from the Russian front to launch an attack, thanks to Riga and the Houtier tactics. Also, he wanted the German divisions back by December to prepare for the 1918 campaign in France. Unlike Conrad, this Austrian dude had no problems with the conditions and immediately began detailed planning with Ludendorff and his chief of staff. And then also the collapse of Russia helped, as we know about. And also that I want to get into the Houtier tactics a little bit. Houtier tactics. General Oscar van Houtier, which, like I said, helped in the attack on the collapse of Riga and whatnot. I hope you guys got to see that little bit if you saw the World War I image of the day today. In the very backdrop, there's a little pole that looks there, and supposedly Peter the Great statue used to be there, but they got it the hell out of there before the Germans showed up, which I thought was pretty cool. Anyways, it says his specialty was the study of tactics in all armies, and he used this knowledge to develop new ideas based on his command experience. His victory at the Siege of Riga on the 3rd of September, 1917, made use of his new infiltration tactics, or what the French later called Houtier tactics. Most previous battles in the First World War had opened with a long artillery barrage, followed by assaults with massed infantry. I think we mentioned this guy before, with massed infantry. I think they actually stole some of his stuff from a Russian general, remember? In the Kerensky offensive. I'm pretty damn sure about that. We got to look that up. The new tactics consisted of, it's about not using artillery to pre-fire. You use math ahead of time. I think it was a freaking Russian dude that did that. Remember, which would make sense because Houtier just said that he was studying other people's tactics and using them. So that makes sense. A short artillery bombardment featuring high explosive and, where appropriate, poison gas shells. There were no preliminary sighting shots by the artillery. That was the Russian dude. I've got to find out who the hell that guy's name was. By the artillery, as guns were sighted mathematically. The barrage was designed to neutralize the enemy front lines rather than destroy them. Under a creeping barrage, shock troops would move forward in small groups and infiltrate the defenses that identified weak spots. They would avoid all combat if possible and continue their infiltration until they reached enemy artillery and command posts which they could destroy or capture. Do you imagine Rommel on their this is this sounds so much like flipping from what I've been Meandering Mike telling me about Rommel, and also from what I was reading and watching. Special infantry units equipped with machine guns and mortars would launch heavy attacks on narrow fronts against enemy strong points that had been avoided or bypassed by the shock troops. Artillery was then brought up so that fire could be directed to support the breakthrough. The regular infantry was then sent forward to mop up any remaining resistance. And I want to find out, is there anything else I wanted to show you? Well, we could, I don't need to get into the crown. Well, maybe. Let's see what we got here for this guy. What did I bring here? Most escape. But Houdier had torn open the Russian front line. Hoffman wanted to exploit the success with a march on Petrograd against the disintegrating Russians, but Ludendorff had halted the advance. His reserves were needed elsewhere. Riga turned out to be a dress rehearsal for the last German offensive outside the Western Front, excluding Hoffman's walk over the shattered Russian armies in 1918, which I don't know anything about. It would be made on the Italian front, where Cadorna's success in the 11th Battle of the Isonzo had stretched the Austrians to the breaking point. German help was needed, and Ludendorff provided it. France and Britain declined to aid their ally, which we just found out about, but did make plans to send troops in case of an Italian disaster, and sounds like they're going to need it. So that was neat. And here we are with the Corps. And do they talk about? Does he talk about it? Talk about him here? No. Darn it! I was kind of hoping. But I think it was saying, he says something like 16 miles in the first day. So what's that? That's at least a hex. Meandering Mike, that's got to be at least one hex. A hex and a half, maybe, or something like that. That was just the official things. Okay, and then we'll go at the very end. So there, we got to see a little bit about that. And then I wanted to show you this because we're running out of time. But I wanted to show. Oh, do we need? I can just show you this way. Nope. Hold on here. There. So this is coming up. I thank God I did show this to you guys because I didn't know it was Thursday. I thought I was going to start on a Friday. That would have sucked because I'm really, really excited for this symposium next week for flipping sure. And then tomorrow they're having this one. If you guys are interested, you can go and join. Easily. It's Empire of Purity, the history of Americans' global war on prostitution. And this is coming up. And you see there, I don't know if you got here, I'll get rid of me so you guys can see it a bit better. There, the Prony bombers right there. There's a lot of interesting things here. Australia missing in action, the Marne, King Albert, female Marines. What the hell? Well, it makes sense with the picture, I guess. Central Park U-boat. What the hell? It's going to be interesting to read about. And there's the upcoming stuff coming up. Like I said, the 23rd, there's that symposium. And then they got the new membership on the 11th of November. So I've got to pop in mine for sure. And we're way past whatever. So let's get rid of here. Let's see if this works. Back to here. I'm hoping it'll do it. Will it do it? Will it let me? Oh, goody, two shoes. Okay, that does this, and then we can go off to the thing. We will talk a little bit. Oh, darn it. Well, you know what? We're doing all right. Let's see if I just want to get to the links because I did want to kind of show this because it really is. Some of this is gaming potential. I was also talking about this with me and Mike. We were talking about this the last live stream. Is that, like, for example, games like Soldiers, where they say, you know, it's only for 1914, 15 on the Western Front before trench warfare really kicks into high gear. But we're already looking now, like you look at like the breakthroughs in the Kerensky offensive, and we're about to see like, I mean, if they're gaining like 16 miles in a day, there's obviously going to be no more trench warfare in a lot of that area, whatnot going on. There's a lot of potential for some scenarios for games like Soldiers and whatnot. I would love to try to do those type of things, for goodness sakes. But we're going to see some other goodies for sure. Hold on here. I wanted you guys to see this a little bit and stop this and then boink. And Meandering Mike says there's an issue article on fountains in that issue, World War I Illustrated. Oh, you already got your magazine. Of course, I'm in a postal strike, as you know. So hold on here. I want to get to the. Will it let me? Oh my God! Now it's letting me do things. Weird. There we go. Thanks, Manny Mike, for letting me know. So, anyways, here we go. What happened on the Banzitsa Plateau in 1917? It says it was a semi-mountainous plateau in the north of the strategic city of Gorizia on the Italian front. The city had been captured during the Sixth Battle of the Isonzo in 1916 in hopes that it would provide a launching pad for the Italian army to the highly prized port city of Trieste. And we've been reading, finding that out about as well. But anyways, when this got took, I guess, and that started the ball rolling, like I said, with Hindenburg and whatnot, going, holy shoot, we really have to help them out here. And what else? Like I said, I want to keep on trucking along here to make sure you guys see some of this. So this was a lecture I missed this week, or the topic I missed this week. However, you guys can see it. Excellent. The guy here, Nick Higgum, is the guy that did the talk earlier this week from the Western Front Association about his book, Mavericks, Empire, Oil, Revolution, and the Forgotten Battle of World War I. And it was about the Battle of Baku, which we had mentioned in when we were doing Big Bertha Bingo way back when. But anyways, this freaking thing is the 30-minute audio thing. You can watch, listen to it free, for crying out loud. He talks about his book. So there you go. I thought that was pretty neat because I wanted to, obviously, all this stuff is, like I said, yet again, is upstairs, up there. You know what, Meandering Mike and everybody else, about this game here, which you took a look at, the Herman Luttman game there, Meandering Mike, 12th Battle of Caporetto, is it seems that a lot of people, what I've been noticing here, is there it says here, would love to see other battles using this system. And it looks like, I haven't know too much about it. I'd like to find out more about it, but it looks like they're really interested in doing this. So I'm like, wouldn't that be, that would be rather nice to see. It obviously seems like a very gameable whatever. And I wanted to, like I said, these are all in the sources and links. You guys can see this. Boink. This is a sweetheart. A sweetheart of a website. Look at this. It's nice. It's really nice. Anyways, if you want to go and read some beautiful stuff about Erwin Rommel and whatnot, it's in the sources and links. There you go. And there was, yes, here's another one I thought would be a really cool gaming situation. Really, really good. I thought would be a really cool. Well, I'll just say this, Manny, Mike. When I was listening or watching your video thing and whatnot, and it was like it's starting to sound a lot like, in some ways, like Field Commander Napoleon and whatnot. I was like, I wonder if that, like, you know what I mean? That would be a nice, like, neato. Destruction of the Brussels radio station in 1914 by an eyewitness. And I thought, well, first of all, I haven't read the whole thing, but I thought this was rather, I don't know how the hell I found this out, ran around. Oh, yes, because this was one of it could actually contact the Congo, for goodness sakes. And they wanted to make sure the Germans couldn't get this because they would be able to contact Africa. And I thought, boy, yet again, wouldn't this be a rather interesting little gaming situation? And yeah. I do, like a race, beat the clock. Can the Germans get to the spot before the Belgians can destroy the radio station, and so on and so forth? I thought that would be rather neat. And boink, William Arends says today's economy becomes tomorrow's. Today's enemy becomes tomorrow's ally. Recurring theme of, oh my God, it's crazy, Bill Akers, isn't it? It is just nuts. It is just nuts. I think that's about it. You know what, guys? Let's get back to the. Nope, I'm going to stop that. Stop sharing this puppy. Get to my dude. We're going to get to, almost to there. I just want to look at the. I think that's the end of it. Yep, I saw the. We're going to get rid of this, and we're going to make sure I get to my YouTube thing, and then we're going to go to the after hours and the ATAs. Or one of them anyways. Hold on here. I want to make sure that I'm in. Everybody's okay. Wow, that was a really interesting trivia thing for me. Like I said from the get-go, from the beginning to that was fantastic. Well, I'm glad. Well, anyways, I'm about to hit the after hours a little bit. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks a lot for popping up and providing me with a lot of filling in the blanks for things that I don't know about. Neat to know now that next time when we return and chit chat for 132, that the Italians are going to be in deep trouble. Like Caporetto is going to be well into it, and I guess I don't know what you guys. How like, come on, like let's look at it from let's look at it from the big perspective here. I don't know about you, but Riga just fell. We know Russia is about to, like fall apart for good forever. Caporetto is about to occur. Is there any other good news that's happening? Oh yeah, Romania doesn't look too good. There's a lot of good news coming out for the Central Powers, it seems, but yet it seems almost like that point yet again of yes, you're going off to Essenspiel, and it's perfect timing for us, isn't it, Harro? Because you'll wouldn't miss the show because you're going to be gone, which is super sweet. It's just weird to think that yet again it seems like they are winning the battles, but they're going to lose the war. It's just a mind boggler and a half. Wow. Anyways, here we go. Thanks again, guys. This was freaking amazing. I really, I love hanging out with you guys. I wish I could do it more often. It just can't. All right. Off I go to hit the share the screen. Oh, what did Mini Warmat say? I think if I'm allowed to, is that what I'm all? No, you're never off. It's because what we do here. Human rogue. If I'm allowed to be, like I said yet again, I'd like to be a cleric-y type dude. And it doesn't mean you have to be like a super lovey kissy guy. I'd like to be a cleric with a bit of an attitude. I don't see anything wrong with that. That type of thing sounds good to me. Yeah, I'm a rogue as well. I've never been a rogue before. Maybe I'd be like a little bit of a rascal. Okay, make me a rogue. Make me a rogue, please. Thank you. No, Mini Warma. I'm back to being a rogue. Should we roll for it? Hold on, let's make this perfect. Hold on, I gotta get a die 6. Okay, I got a die 6, I think. Yes, I do. Oh my God, it's a Can Games die too. You guys no, we're gonna roll for it. Mini Warm-Up. 1 to 3, cleric. 4 to 6, rogue. I'd be a chaotic, good rogue, or how about straight up neutral cleric? I don't know if there is one, if you're allowed to be that. As in, I don't know, that'd be weird. What did I, so it's a 4. I'm a rogue. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to be a nasty little son of a bee. That'll be cool. Oh, you meandering Mike. All right, here we go. Thanks, guys. This is, I'm a rogue, eh? Like I said, I've never been a rogue. I've only ever been, never even been a magic user, for goodness sakes. Just a cleric and a fighter, man. I know, pretty lame, eh? Pretty lame. Druids, of course. Yes, I've never been a druid. Just what did you say? I finally got into October. Look at me, William Arends. I'm so far behind your material. It's not funny, but I had a rough week, as you know, from there. But okay, it's going to be neat to be a rogue. All right, I like this. Thanks a lot, Mini Warm-Up. This is cool. Okay, so I'm about to hit the thingamajig. Hold on, I'm going to let you guys see it, and I'll turn my thing into whatever. Yeah. Oh my God, the Battle of Baku, for goodness sakes. Like I said, it's in the sources and links. And I think that would be an excellent, excellent scenario to do. It even shows you the amount of forces. Oh my God, you would have British, Soviet, there's all kinds of crazy ass different factions going on because it's in late 1918, for goodness sakes, or something. All right, that's it. Let me go to my thingamajig and we're going to pop it in here. Okay, guys, see you later. All right, here we go for live stream 131, the after hours. As vitally important to the cause of freedom the world over as any of the battles won on land or sea by the Allies is the news of the mutiny on a number of German warships. The fact that it occurred some weeks ago does not rob of its profound interest the report that the crews of 4 warships at Wilhelmshaven were in rebellion, one captain being thrown overboard and drowned, that Marines refused to fire on the sailors after they had landed, and that soldiers had to be called upon to compel their surrender. While this was going on in the safety of a shelter behind which part of the German Grand Fleet has sulked since the Battle of Jutland, the men on another warship are reported to have seized their officers and headed towards Norway with the intention of having the ship interned. The vessel was followed by torpedo destroyers and forced to surrender. The Kaiser's order that 1 in 7 of the mutineers was to be shot was qualified through the efforts of Chancellor Michaelis, and only 3 men were put to death, prison sentences on other ringleaders aggregating some 200 years. Admiral von Kappel, Minister of Marine, in a speech in the Reichstag dealing with the mutiny, declared that it was the result of revolutionary ideas which had spread by some persons whose heads had been turned by the Russian Revolution. He charged that some of the ringleaders had conferred with the independent socialist faction in the Reichstag, an allegation which some of the latter denied. Here then is a practical result of the Russian Revolution. Many allied and neutral publicists and statesmen have declared that the spread of democratic ideas from Russia into Germany as a result of the Russian uprising against tyrannical autocracy would result in a reform in Germany which in the end would curb the Junkers and make for world peace. Very few believed that the Reformation would have such a startling inauguration. There have been signs on land that the morale of the German troops is deteriorating in spite of the vigor of their fighting power as displayed from time to time. In some of the cities and towns, there have been peace riots and food riots, but the mutiny in the Navy, ruthlessly suppressed as it was, has no doubt sown seeds in the hearts of the German people that cannot be uprooted. The men who paid the penalty with their lives are more than likely to be regarded as martyrs by the masses of the common people, especially if their leaders cannot soon point to a great success. The Junkers will feel apprehension such as these have never known regarding the loyalty of their military forces and the will of the civilian population to endure the sacrifices they are asked to make for a dream of world conquest. Powerful foe counterattacks compelled the British advanced troops on a front of some 2,000 yards to fall back slightly northeast of Broadside, south of the Ypres-Steden Railway. Elsewhere along the whole of the new front created by the advance of Tuesday, the British held their ground against a number of heavy attacks. General Haig's men also conducted a series of successful raids south of the Scarpe River. The French made a little further progress in this area, taking the fortified farm and some prisoners. General Haig reports a heavy rain falling throughout the day, which is not conducive to renewal of attacks on a large scale, although the advance of Tuesday, despite the rain and mud conditions, was a revelation of what can be accomplished by determined men. Great advantages have already been obtained by the Allies, particularly for their artillery, but an advance on the flat ground, should the balance of the ridge positions be carried soon, would be out of the question unless the weather clears. Taking all things into consideration, it would seem that nothing but bad weather can save a German retreat of some distance. A reported secret council of the Kaiser and his advisors at a military headquarters may be connected with plans for a retreat on the West Front, or with the story that Germany's allies will no longer fight at her behest, but are demanding that she make peace. A desperate fight in which the Germans made some slight gains, was waged all day on the right bank of the Meuse in the Verdun sector. The enemy were stopped, according to the French report, after succeeding in gaining a foothold at several points in the first line positions north of the Bois de Chaume. The information available is insufficient to base a conclusion as to whether the Germans will attempt to push their advantage at this point. In any event, we may be sure that the French are well prepared, and that unless the Germans can transfer overwhelming bodies of troops from other sectors, they are not likely to be allowed to take positions of importance. It is more probable that the attack was launched with the idea of offsetting the French and British gains made around Ypres. 14 British vessels of over 1,600 tons were sunk during the week, an increase of 3, and 2 under 1,600 tons were sent to the bottom. The latter number corresponds to the number of smaller vessels lost in the previous week. 3 sailing vessels also were sunk. This is not a serious increase compared to some that have occurred since the period of intensified submarine warfare was inaugurated, and it is not calculated to greatly encourage the submarine enthusiasts of Germany. At the same time, the Allies are in no position to assume that the U-boats has been mastered. There is much yet to be done before it can be safely said that as a factor of great importance in the war, the submarine has been eliminated. There is significance in the publication of the Berlin Tageblatt of a denial by Admiral von Tirpitz of the statement credited to him that the U-boats would finish Great Britain by August 1st. I think he did, actually. The comment of the Tageblatt is more striking still. It reads, the statement by Admiral von Tirpitz is published by the Pan-German Bund, and he seems to have waited a long while before putting things right. Von Tirpitz, long ago, joined the company of the Kaiser and the Crown Prince as a false prophet. His royal masters fixed the dates for their triumphant entry into Paris and Verdun, respectively, but have had to abandon the idea that they could get into either place except as prisoners. Wow. Austrian attempts to stay the development of the Italian plans for continuation of the advance so well begun some weeks ago are not meeting with much success. Give them time. Fighting on the Benzitza Plateau and on the Carso Plateau has been very vigorous during the past few days, with the result that the Austrians have won no ground and have lost many men. The enemy has shown great determination in pushing these attacks and has evidently used them in a good many of the reinforcements reported to have recently reached him on this front. In the Baltic, the activity of German warships and airplanes is disturbing. The foe may be contemplating an attempt for a spectacular coup here. Oh, brother. The British steamroller. Wow, this a neat term for them. This is the term we are now likely to hear applied to the British armies on the Western Front, judging by the review of military activities as given by General Maurice, Director of Military Operations at the War Office. Steamroller, he says, is exactly the right word to characterize the British advance in Flanders. It is an advance, not rapid, but insistent, irresistible. General Maurice gives very interesting statistics about the imports of British war material into France to show that the U-boat warfare has not prevented a single round of ammunition being sent to France or delayed by a single hour the work of the British Army on the West Front. His statement, which appears in this issue, may help some of the pessimists, of whom there are still few in existence, to cheer up a little. In the meantime, heavy rain is retarding infantry operations in Flanders. The Germans report intense artillery fire there, especially in the afternoon of yesterday. Apparently, there is no intention, rain or shine, to give the foe a rest. If the weather should absolutely preclude infantry attacks for a few days, every foe position within reach of the Allied artillery is nevertheless to be systematically and mercilessly pounded. On the French front, the day was also devoted generally to artillery engagements. The bad weather is not, however, preventing aerial activity against German positions in Belgium. One naval airman who was heavily attacked by anti-aircraft guns says the British official report descended and attacked the gun crews, scattering them and silencing the guns. So long as the spirit is displayed by the Allied fighters, the Germans cannot hope to recover the ground they have lost in Flanders or to ever regain the initiative. The Germans report a battle in the air in which 80 airplanes took part, and they say that 3 Entente airplanes were shot down, but do not mention their own losses. They've always minimized their air casualties and exaggerated those of the Allies, but their generals still complain by the lack of protection and the lack of information given by their flyers. Berlin's claim for September is that the Entente lost 374 airplanes, as against 82 lost by the foe. The figures, like the German reports of the battles in which this year they have been compelled to yield much ground and many vital observation posts on the West Front, are another illustration of the manner in which the Germans try to hide their real losses. Russian activity in the Caucasus continues, though not on a great scale. Some villages have been captured from the Kurds southeast of Lake Van with 250 enemy prisoners. One result of the engagements was the release of 200 captured Syrians. There is no indication yet that the Russians in this area are moving with any great force towards a conjunction with the British or to attacks on the main Turkish positions, time to be made while General Maud is striking. But there are reasons for hoping that this is the case and that developments on a major scale are about due in this sphere of the Great War. On the Macedonian front, there have been a number of raids and some lively artillery exchanges. The Kaiser is reported to be about ready to visit King Ferdinand at Sofia, and there is no doubt that the Bulgarian ruler and his advisors are in need of tonic from their master. Following the mutiny on some of his own warships and the defeats of his armies on the West Front, together with the Italian successes and the Austrian propaganda for peace, William may not be in a condition to offer the Bulgarians anything but the prospect of more hard fighting against the ever-growing Allied forces. Once the Grecian armies get into line with the Allied forces now massed on the Macedonian front, the Bulgars will begin to realize that their triumph has been short-lived and that the day for a reckoning is near. The British steamroller was held up yesterday by rain and mud after it had made a good start in the early morning towards its final objectives in the present fighting for the balance of the ridge positions east of Ypres. Strange how that happens. Nature intervened to stay the advance, which the German cannon, machine guns, and soldiers were powerless to check. This is the effect of the bulletin sent from headquarters by General Haig last night. Berlin, which in its report admitted the renewal of the fight and the penetration at places of the German lines, will be quick to seize upon this development as a proof of the ability of the armies to hold the British in check. But it is safe to assert that the first spell of dry weather will give the Junkers an opportunity to make a few more admissions about losing crater holes. The attack of yesterday morning, the 5th in 22 days, was launched on a 6-mile front northeast of Ypres from near Holst Wood to a point below the Ypres Rulers Railway. It is stated in the unofficial dispatches that the Germans were far less formidable owing to the disorganization caused by the previous British blows than the mud and slime caused by the persistent rains. The dispatches of Philip Gibbs, British armies at the front, published in the Globe, have contained some vivid descriptions of the hardships of the British and overseas men have undergone under these conditions to press the advantages they have gained, and the cheerful doggedness of all ranks, inspired as they are by the knowledge that they have the upper hand of the foe. Hurrah! The British took a considerable number of prisoners and then advanced to a depth of some 800 yards before the weather conditions halted them. It does not appear that the French took part in the movement. For the moment, they have done their part by the advance southeast of the Holst Wood, and which to some extent protects the northern limit of the wedge the British are driving into the foe positions. The advance of yesterday had as its main objective the ridge extending from West Roosbeek for some distance south of Passchendaele. General Haig's men in their previous attacks had made considerable progress towards Passchendaele village, and yesterday were reported to have reached a point within 500 yards of it, and also to have taken the brewery east of Polkapelle, a strong position which had been stubbornly defended by the foe. Of course, there's a brewery there. When the British take Passchendaele, They will be within 6 miles of rulers, formerly the German headquarters, and will be able to bombard at their pleasure the Lille-Ostend Railroad. The opportunities of striking a great blow, which will serve the double purpose of compelling the German retreat on a big scale, is that if that is not already underway, and if compelling the evacuation of some of the submarine bases on the Belgian coast may be snatched from the British by weather conditions. General Haig will not let go in any event. The foe is paying the price. Shells taken from the Russians are being used by the Germans on the West Front, according to Reuters correspondent. This may mean a real shortage of German-made ammunition, which has sometimes been hinted at, or the very practical idea of using materials necessary to the work in hand, no matter their source. Admiral von Kappel, German Minister of Marine, has resigned, according to German newspaper reports via neutral sources. No doubt he is being made the scapegoat for the recent mutiny in the Imperial German fleet. He succeeded von Tirpitz, who so often predicted that the U-boat warfare would bring Britain to her knees, but who is no more successful in his efforts to gain a victory on the seas for the Germans. With the announcement of the resignation of von Kappel comes a statement, unofficial, but bearing evidences of authenticity, that more U-boats were destroyed in September than in any previous month. The work of British, American, and other Allied destroyers, patrol boats, and other offensive units is undoubtedly the greatest factor in dealing with the pirates. The Russians have recaptured some trenches on the Riga front, and the Russo-Romanians have accomplished a similar feat on their part of the line, where activity on a considerable scale seems to have been renewed. Most important for the moment, however, is the report of another Russian advance in the Caucasus, reviving the hope that our allies are going to be of real assistance in the renewed attempt to smash the Turkish armies. Italian naval units have captured an Austrian torpedo boat which surrendered without firing a shot. This is a unique event in the naval annals of the Great War, and in striking comparison with the recent action of an Italian cruiser, which, after attacking foe destroyers, was in turn attacked by Austrian cruisers, planes, and torpedo boats, but successfully fought them all off and returned to harbor. Hold on here. Yeah, just taking a sip of water. I think this is what they're starting to talk about here, is about Operation Albion. I may be wrong about this, but I think so. Germany has undertaken a strike to strike a heavy blow against Russia. Combined naval and military forces operating in the Gulf of Riga in the Baltic have succeeded in effecting the landing on Alsol Island, and at last reports have beaten down resistance of the garrison, are rapidly overrunning the whole island, although Petrograd's report says that the Russians were offering resistance. Alsol Island is 100 miles north of Riga. While the landing here was going on, the enemy made an attack in strong naval force against Dago Island, succeeding in silencing the batteries after a sharp engagement. Petrograd claims that in this latter fight, 4 enemy torpedo boats were sunk and 1 cruiser ran aground. According to one report, a small force was landed on Dago Island, but was afterwards withdrawn. Another Petrograd dispatch, however, talks of the serious strategic loss sustained by our allies through the capture of Dago Island. According to the Russian official report, some 90 German warships took part in the operations. Holy smokes. Dago Island is 200 miles from Petrograd. It is almost at the mouth of the Gulf of Finland, at the head of which is the great fortress of Kronstadt, the defense of Petrograd. Both islands give easy access to the mainland via a series of small intermediate islands. It would appear that one plan the Germans have in mind is the landing of a strong force in the Russian province of Estonia, with the idea of outflanking the Russian line in the north and forcing a retreat on a very wide area, in fact, opening the way to Petrograd. They might also be able to cut off large sections of the Russian armies. The fact that the Germans were able to carry on these operations without great hindrance from the Russian land forces is seemingly a striking indication of the demoralization of both the Russian army and navy in this region. There is an intimation in some of the reports that the garrison at Kronstadt and the personnel of the fleet are both showing signs of the same weaknesses that lost Riga, ended the recent advance in Galicia, and turned it into a shameful retreat and weakened the whole Russian line. There do not seem to have been any British submarines in the Baltic, where the opportunity for striking at the German battleships and transports was a golden one, and the Russian submarines were apparently idle. What is now feared is that the Russian fleet, and even in Petrograd, will be subjected to a series of bombing attacks on a very large scale, as the foe will no doubt establish bases on the islands occupied with the view to using them first against Reval on the mainland, which is supposed to be strongly fortified, as well as against Kronstadt. Control of the Gulf of Finland and future developments depend largely upon the staunchness of the Russian Baltic fleet. Until it is disposed of, the Germans cannot feel safe. Premier Kerensky's appeal to the redoubtable Baltic fleet to stand fast in the hour of trial shows the fear that is entrained in Petrograd of what may happen. Kerensky says with truth, it is time to refleet seriously and to cease to cooperate involuntarily with the cause of the enemy. The garrison of Kronstadt has, by its attitude, already caused the defensive resources of the forces to be incomplete. If the fleet and the garrison are both in bad condition, the task of the Germans should be easy. All that the Allies can hope for in it just now is that the sailors may show some real fighting spirit and provide a pleasant surprise for us. Good luck. On the Western Front, heavy rains are falling and activity has been of a minor nature. Unofficial dispatches describe conditions in the Flanders area as a series of morasses. Correspondents say that the wonder is that General Haig's men were able to advance an inch under these conditions in the fighting of Friday. The Germans have come along with the usual report of tremendous British losses and no great gain of ground. There's been some raiding just north of Lens by British troops. On the French front, there have been no great engagements, though the artillery activity seems to indicate another attempt by the Germans against the famous Chemin des Dames in the Aisne sector. In spite of the bad weather, the British flyers have been able to do a certain amount of observation and photographic work. In one instance, says General Haig in his report last night, one British air patrol met a German patrol containing double the number of machines, and a desperate fight ensued in which the British lost 4 machines while several German machines fell out of control. News from the other fronts is of a minor nature. General von Arends, a German military critic, says that the losses of the German armies in the last Flanders battle have been so great as to induce the military authorities to abandon the usual rule of not referring to them, feeling that the sacrifices of Prince Ruprecht's troops have been such as to entitle them to extraordinary thanks of the fatherland. This testimony from the foe is convincing proof of the progress the British are making, not only in the steady gaining of ground, but in the breaking up of the foe forces. The remarks of General Arends were made with a view to asserting that the heavy casualties have not affected the morale of the Germans, but this is not borne out by the condition and spirit of the foe on the Western Front. It is true that the enemy soldiers fight bravely on the defensive and still make vigorous counterattacks, but it is to be noted that they neither succeed in holding the positions they are assigned to defend, nor in recovering the ground they lose. Russian attempts to stay the German forces that are overrunning Austell Island in the Gulf of Riga, or to interfere with the activities of the powerful foe covering the fleet, do not appear to be sufficient or effective. The Germans have pressed on to Arendsburg, the capital, previously reported in flames, and have occupied that place. The retreating Russians were making for Moon Island. Aerial patrols are supporting the German naval and land forces taking part in the operations. My God, I'd love to see what that looks like. The whole story of the developments is a sorry contrast to the defeat of previous foe attempts to gain striking successes in the Gulf of Riga, with larger aims in view. Various reasons prevent the hope that a strong Allied fleet might appear on the scene, and what the Russians tackled the German fleet should it elect to stay up and fight. An Allied fleet, sizable enough to embark upon such an undertaking with a measure of success, would have to run tremendous risks after leaving the North Sea and entering the Sound between Denmark and Sweden in order to reach the southern entrance of the Baltic. The Germans, whose entry and exit into the latter is a matter of comparative ease, owing to the Kiel Canal, would reap the full benefit of submarine and mine warfare on a fleet entering upon any such attempt, and be able also to swing all the units of their main fleet back and forth as required by the exigencies of the situation, or to give shelter to the whole of it in the canal. Never seen that word before in my life. Marines were in the Baltic some time ago. They had a great measure of success, but they ran many risks getting in and out of the sea. It may be that there are some British subs with the Russian fleet. As far as I know, there are, and I think they scuttle them when the Civil War comes in, and they take a. It's an interesting little way they get back home. Maybe wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. And then there's also, remember, the Belgians with the armored cars. They go all the way across the world, for crying out loud. Remember, they take a tour through North America, for goodness sakes. Anyways, it may be that there are some British subs with the British-Russian fleet, or that British or Japanese crews have been sent to Kronstadt to man some of the Russian submarines. But of this, there is as yet no sign. If the German offensive continues to develop as rapidly as it has begun, the Russian fleet may be bottled up in the Gulf of Finland even before the winter would naturally do that, and may be systematically bombed by the Germans operating their planes and Zeps from some of the positions they are now seizing, even if the Russian fleet is backed up by the fortress guns. The Germans seem to be methodically preparing for whatever course of action they may decide upon. A land campaign with Petrograd as the goal, or combined naval, air, and land campaigns with the Russian fleet, the fortresses, and Petrograd combined as their prizes. My God. They have to win victory somewhere to hearten the people at home, and Russia offers them the only field. The early setting in of the winter would give the Russians a breathing spell and time to decide upon abandoning debating societies and devoting their attention to fighting. But it must be confessed that the situation is one that can only be changed by some great Allied stroke of which there has been no indication, or by a sudden and tremendous burst of fighting energy on the part of the Russian forces, of which there is likewise no sign. Some members of the government and the various workmen's and soldiers and sailors committees predict with confidence that the fleet will show that it is determined to defend Russia's honor to the last. Much will be forgiven by the Allies if these declarations should be fulfilled. My God, forgiven. Like, come on, man. Heavy fighting along almost the whole of the Julian front has resulted in favor of the Italians, who beat back many vigorously pressed Austrian assaults. The latter are attempting to check any renewal of Cadorna's advances. The renewal of the fighting is an indication that the stories of winter having set in with severity along the whole front are hardly correct. They would love it, though. They would love it, I think, if they knew what was coming. British raids, October 24th, my friends. We figured this out earlier on in the show. British raids on a large scale southeast of Monchy-le-Preux and northeast of Roux, resulting in the capture of a number of prisoners, 2 machine guns, and the killing of over 200 of the enemy, and the destruction of many of his dugouts, have been magnified by the foe as attempted advances on a large scale, which were, of course, according to Berlin, repulsed with sanguinary losses. Berlin will not allow any opportunity to pass to bolster up the courage of the German people. Tremendous artillery activity on the Aisne and Verdun fronts may indicate renewed attempts by the Germans in these sectors to try to get back to the Chemin de Dam positions and to make still another endeavor for the recovery of ground they've lost around Verdun. Winter will soon be setting in along the Western Front, and the Germans dread it. They do not want to force winter hardships and also to occupy positions which are dominated by the artilleries of the Allies. The Germans are showing every day that they realize that they are losing. Britain continues to pay the price of keeping ships at sea. It is announced that the armored mercantile cruiser Champagne went bottoms up, has been sunk, and that a minesweeping sloop is so long overdue that she has been given up as lost. When the great shipping trade that Britain carries on is considered, these losses are not disastrous, though their seriousness is not to be questioned. Britain is still building warships and merchant vessels, and although in respect to the latter, the tonnage does not keep up with the amount sunk, the U-boat warfare cannot decide the issue. The weather on the Western Front halts the outflank into the German U-boat bases on the Belgian coast this year. It cannot stay all the activities by air and sea, and we may soon be reading of aerial attacks, in some cases cooperating with naval attacks on a scale never before dreamed of. The promise that Britain would undertake reprisals for the raids over England directed specifically against London was not an empty one, and it's going to happen soon. Some sweeping changes in the German government are forecasted by the Vorwärts, the Berlin socialist paper, which bitterly attacks Chancellor Michaelis, War Minister von Stein, and other ministers. I think William Arends talks about this in the ATAs, doesn't he? Political crisis in Germany do not mean anything like the upheavals that would follow a more democratic countries, but the signs of German dissatisfaction with the government are many. Oh, he certainly does. The unrest of the people cannot be allied by the indecisive nature of the words and acts of the men who are but puppets of the warlord. You know, I think there's actually 14 pages here. I think I did a day by mistake. Well, I mean, like I picked the Saturday last week. It doesn't matter. This was a brutal page. It's going to take me a while to read this one. It's really badly scanned. German forces operating in the Gulf of Riga are extending the area of their conquests. It is stated that Abro and Runo Islands, the former the southern coast of Ossel Island and the latter in the middle of the Gulf, have been occupied by the foe. Petrograd says that the Germans on Ossel Island have been strongly reinforced and are now developing a vigorous offensive against the Something Peninsula in the southwestern section of the island. If indeed they have not already captured it, their aim is to take the Russian heavy batteries there, which cover the entrance to the Gulf. It is also stated that during the engagement on Saturday, north of Ossel Island, 2 German torpedo boats were sunk, 2 others damaged, and 1 Russian torpedo boat sent to the bottom. This engagement took place in Sowela Sound. I guess that's where it is up there again. And a considerable number of German torpedo boats supported by a battleship were engaged. While this skirmishing ended in favor of the Russians, the latter showed no signs of risking a general engagement with the German naval units operating in the Baltic. The latter, it should be remembered, can be very readily reinforced by ships from the Kiel Canal. Admiral Verodovsky, the Russian Minister of Marine, is quoted today as saying that the Russian fleet did everything possible to prevent the German landing and will continue to carry out all his orders. He seems to think that there is no immediate danger of a German attempt to enter the Gulf of Finland. But of course, this initiative is in the hands of the Germans, who may know much better than the Russians the actual condition of the fortress garrisons and the extent to which the troubles in Finland may affect the whole situation. For the moment, we can only be sure that the Germans have obtained a success, the positions of which oh my God, what a difference. Considering the present situation in Russia are very grave. An early winter may save Russia, but the Baltic fleet of our allies, in spite of all excuses, has lost an opportunity to strike a heavy blow. I know I was thinking about this about gaming purposes as well, to strike a heavy blow at the Germans. I mean, even like for an RPG, for espionage, there's some way of that would have gotten out, you know, ahead of time with the German mutinies. And oh my goodness, it would have been worthwhile to have risked the loss of some vessels for the sake of damage that could have been done to foe transports and warships by Russian submarines and heavier vessels while the landing operations were being attempted. Hold on, I'm going to take another sip. Yep, there are 14 pages. 2 German submarines were destroyed in the Western Mediterranean during the last week of September, according to dispatches to the French Minister of Marine. French warships accounted for these vessels. This news comes simultaneously with a dispatch from Washington regarding a naval conference held in that city to discuss means of combating the submarines. While discounting over-optimism, it was stated that the progress made by the combined Allied fleets, including that of the United States, against the sub-menace was more than merely encouraging. Information for Britain of late is to the effect that steady progress is being made in cutting off the coastline of Germany proper and the conquered portions of Belgium by blockading methods, combining the use of nets, mines, and light war vessels. Britain is declared to be steadily increasing her own submarine fleet by adding to its vessels in every way equal to the larger of the German U-boats, and these are helping to make it impossible for foe surface vessels to show themselves anywhere except where they can hug their own neutral shores. The fight against the submarine menace is a long way from being won, but it is surely progressing. On the British front, activity continued raiding operations, especially around Bullecourt. There are many indications of a movement on the southern end of the line by Haig's men, but this may not develop if weather conditions should make it possible soon to continue the operation so well begun east of Ypres, and having the turning of the submarine bases on the Belgian coast as one of their primary objectives. Apparently, there's been considerable improvement in the weather, as the official statement regarding the work of the naval air patrols shows the great quantities of explosives have been dropped on the docks of Bruges, the inland port of the submarines, and on a number of aerodromes in the interior. Unofficial dispatches declared that the recent attack by a British airman on Rulers destroyed an arsenal there in which a newly arrived German regiment was quartered. It is reported that the airmen flying low used their machine guns with great effect on the enemy troops in the neighborhood. On the Aisne front and around Verdun, there's been some fighting in which infantry engagements featured. In both sectors, the French were successful, defeating attacks launched by the Germans, who are showing signs of great nervousness in these areas. The Germans continued to maintain a tremendous artillery fire along the Chemin des Dames, on the Aisne front, as well as on the right bank of the Meuse in the Verdun region. It is to be expected that they will launch new attacks here, probably on a big scale, with two ideas in view that have frequently been mentioned. First, to prevent the full development of possible French offensives, and second, to offset the losses they have sustained in the recent fighting on the Western Front. It would not be surprising to have word at any time that American troops are in the fighting. They've been training assiduously for some time, and as the first divisions landed, were already seasoned men. They should be pretty fit now for active operation on the French front. British air raid reprisals into German territory appear to have commenced. A successful raid has been undertaken against a factory west of Saarbrücken in Prussia, 40 miles beyond the German frontier, and the place was bombed until flames were observed breaking from it. Saarbrücken, on the right bank of the Saar, is 40 miles east of Metz. Wow, a long distance from the British area of the Western Front. It is located near a great coal field in a district of industrial activity and is linked to the town of St. Johann by a series of bridges across the Saar. No doubt the district offers excellent opportunity as the distances and conditions for the carrying out of British promise to repay the raids over England with compound interest. Remember what Lloyd George said that a couple of weeks ago. The British have also bombed with success the canal and waterworks at Bruges in Belgium. A very large number of foe machines have been brought down by the French lately. On the 15th and 16th, the aggregate number of machines driven down was 25. In retaliation for raids against undefended towns, the French have bombed a number of German towns. A decrease of 2 in the sinking of vessels over 1,600 tons and an increase of 4 in the number under 1,600 tons are noted in the British report for the week. The figures are 12 of the larger and 6 of the smaller vessels against 14 and 2 in the previous week. For some weeks, there's been an almost uniform aggregate in the losses. There's no room yet for real optimism in respect to the submarine menace. The reported inclusion of the coasts of the United States and Canada in the war zone is taken in some quarters to mean that von Tirpitz has been restored to power in the German Navy and that he favors the operation of U-boats off the shores of this continent. It may be doubted whether an attempt will be made to conduct a real blockade of these coasts by the U-boat system during the winter, and a good deal of the statement indicating that such may be tried would appear to be based upon the hope of raising fears as to the transport of United States troops to the fighting front. From treating the sending of United States troops as a matter to be ridiculed, the Germans have come to see to them it is the most serious problem they have to face. And oh, brother, it is. When the Bulgarians cede anything, they do so because they must, not from choice. The statement from Berlin that the Bulgarians have ceded several villages in the Struma region to the British may, therefore, have some hint of the development of an offensive on a scale that Ferdinand's armies do not like, coupled with developments on other sections of the Macedonian front that are not yet apparent. The ground occupied by the British is on the right of the long Allied line in the sector of warfare and to the northeast of Salonika. During the early part of the summer season, the British abandoned some positions here because they were in the malarial belt, and they had no desire to suffer from that affliction more than they were compelled to. It was said that at the time, however, that most of the area from which the British troops were withdrawn was under the command of the Allied artillery. Presumably, the ground now ceded to the British is more than that with which they had abandoned. While there have been many signs indicating a renewed offensive on a large scale in Macedonia, the season is late, and unless there is vigorous action within the next few weeks, we cannot expect any progress of note to be made this year. What is more likely is that an Allied offensive, if undertaken, will be attempted with the cutting off of communication between Bulgaria and Turkey in view. This would mean also the severance of transportation between the Teutonic powers and their Turkish ally. German forces have completed occupation of the island of Ossel in the Gulf of Riga, and profiting by fine weather in the Baltic, the enemy's aerial patrols are scouting far and wide, attacking ships and fortresses and Russian land forces. A number of Russian soldiers, 4,000 or 5,000 perhaps, have been captured on Ossel Island, according to the somewhat confused reports of our occurrences there. It is stated by Petrograd that one of the German dreadnoughts taking part in the operation ran into a minefield and was badly damaged. I wonder if we could find out about that. It was seen to be making for the coast, but its ultimate fate is not known. Berlin reports that in encounters with Russian destroyers and gunboats, the German ships were successful, and the vessels of our allies were compelled to retire. Not looking good. The Germans also state that on the mainland, there has been a considerable revival in the fighting activity, and claim that if Russian detachments were driven back. Unofficial dispatches by way of Sweden state that the Germans appear to be reinforcing their fleets very rapidly. Oh, Jesus. If the fine weather continues, the Germans may very greatly widen the scope of the operation so auspiciously begun for them unless the Russians of themselves, or with the assistance of the Allies, who might be sending special detachments to the scene, show a great deal more vigor than they have so far displayed in combating a movement fraught with such danger to their own country. And here we go. Last paragraph. There is nothing of special interest to report, says General Haig. When he is so laconic, it is usually an indication that big events are brewing. In this instance, his report may be taken to mean that a new British drive is in preparation, especially as the Germans speak of the intensity of the artillery firing on the British section of the Western Front. They also refer to a similar state of affairs in the French front. In regard to the latter, particular note is made of the violence of the firing in the Champagne district. It was here that some time ago the French made one of the greatest offensive efforts of the war, which fell short of being a success because the artillery preparation was not so complete as it might have been, and the French infantry attempted to go beyond the objectives easily within their reach. There is a report that the Germans, in preparation for a big retreat, have constructed dams and other works, which will enable them to flood a big area of Belgium and thus hold back the Allied forces. Boy, there'd be another interesting gaming thing, I think. Anyways, that's it. Hopefully that went well, and I'm not sure if I did an ATA. Well, I haven't done it yet, but I don't know if I'll have time, but I hope I do have some ATA, and we can get off and take a look at some more material. All right. Hope that went well. The ending certainly did. No, I'm just like, bleh. All right. See you later. Oh, brother. All right. The Arends Translation Nutrition, ATA, articles from German newspapers, translated by William Arends, live stream 131, part 1. It actually should be part 5 of the interstreams, but I'm running so far behind that I have to pop it in here for part 1 for live stream 131. Here we go. Translator's note. Here are opinion articles, one written by Privy Councillor and Professor Brandenburg, and another that quotes a representative to the Reichstag, Fritz van Cocker. They're both making comments about what will happen at the meeting of the Central Committee of the National Liberal Party. What is interesting about these opinion pieces is that they show the present state of the middle of the spectrum of German political ideology in 1917. What is really being expressed here are both the hopes and the fears of what will become of the Reich, the German nation, and the German people once the war is either won or lost. Already we can see that the center is not holding, and that a Germany at peace and with security will not be emerging from the end of the Great War. Philosophers, politicians, professors, and political parties will prove to be unable to stop the ill winds of national disasters, leading to the most malicious acts in the course of human history. Thank you, William Arends, for your insights. What will happen on September 23rd by Privy Councillor Professor Dr. Erich Brandenburg? On September 23rd, the Central Executive Committee of the National Liberal Party will meet in Berlin. This meeting will be far more important than any other in recent years. In a sense, it will be decisive for the future of the party. It is not only necessary to elect a new chairman, but above all, to determine the direction in which the party's policies should move in the near future. According to the statutes, determining this direction is not the responsibility of the Reichstag faction, but rather of the Central Executive Committee. The Central Executive Committee must assert its rights all the more vigorously, as their attitude of the Reichstag faction has aroused astonishment throughout the Reich in recent months. There is so much clamor these days for democratic principles of government, for closer ties between the people and the government, that one should rather first consider within the parties whether or not the ties between the representatives and their voters have been lost. Otherwise, the representative easily runs the risk of considering himself the holder of an official position responsible to no one, whereas he is merely the confidant of his constituents and can only truly exercise his function as long as he enjoys the confidence of his constituents. Certainly, the Central Executive Committee cannot wish to interfere in the details of the day-to-day political struggle. Here, the parliamentary group and its leaders must be given complete freedom to act according to the needs of the movement, which can never be predicted in advance. But it must ensure that, on the major issues that affect our collective destiny, the parliamentary group is kept on the path that the national liberal voters in the country consider the correct ones, and that they can understand. There is no doubt that the vast majority of our voters refuse to accept a peace of renunciation and mutual understanding in the spirit of the one put forth by Erzberger and Scheidemann. Our friends in the country tell you that such a peace will bring about Germany's economic ruin and a profound deterioration of our entire standard of living, especially for the working class, with all the inevitable consequences: bitterness, discontent, and internal discord. They know that such a peace, which completely liberates Belgium and Poland and renounces any strengthening of our borders and an expansion of our colonial empire, offers no security against future wars. Anyone who would rely on the goodwill of the enemy, the peaceful disposition of the masses in the enemy countries, the international influence of socialists or Catholics of all countries, or on disarmament treaties and arbitration courts, would experience the bitterest disappointment. For all these guarantees would prove ineffective against the natural antagonism of races and peoples, against the insatiable thirst for conquest of the Anglo-Saxons, and the inevitable advance of the yellow races in the East. It is a political conception of almost childish naivety to believe that world history would suddenly change its character after this war, and that the struggle for power would cease to determine the destinies of peoples and states. That is powerful stuff. Holy smokes. Only strengthening our own power, as our like-minded colleagues agree, will ensure us peace for a new generation. And that generation will have to ensure its own peace through strength for that next period of time. But now the defenders of a peace of renunciation claim that our forces are insufficient to force a better peace. Erzberger's mysterious hints that one must not say what one knows are intended to suggest that the Reichstag Committee has been given monstrous revelations about the limited extent of our forces. We all know that our forces are not inexhaustible, that replenishing our supplies is becoming more difficult, necessitating sacrifices and privations, but we also know that our enemies, however carefully they keep their mouths shut, are suffering just as much. We see how everything is in turmoil in Russia, how things are fermenting in Italy, how English ministers are publicly admitting that without America's financial support, the Entente is already at the end of its strength, how they are soliciting active military assistance from Japan and are longingly looking for the announced American auxiliary troops. The reality is that the party that first says, "I can't go on anymore," will be paralyzed for generations to come. The tenacity with which a people endure the deprivations and sacrifices of war without grumbling has been tested by the call to lay down their weapons, being seen as just as important as their military successes. This is what Hindenburg means when he says that the stronger nerves will win the war. No one doubts that the English have very strong nerves, so we must strive all the more to maintain ours. The decision of the Reichstag majority was a failure of nerve among our representatives, a failure that should not occur among men who aspire to be leaders of a fighting people. But we trust Hindenburg's word, which he proclaimed to the Saxon national liberals a few days ago. We will make it. We rely on the overwhelming conviction of our military leaders that we can and will win if we remain steadfast in our resolve to achieve a strong German peace. We can win, and we must win if we do not want to abandon the future of our people. This is the mood in all nationally minded circles, including our party. Therefore, it has not been understood how the National Liberal faction in the Reichstag could waver for even a moment in its stance towards the ideas that Erzberg has advanced, and why it did not separate itself from this majority more clearly and sharply than it has done. The Central Executive Committee will only give expression to this mood if it once again resolves with particular emphasis that the National Liberal Party wants a peace that secures our western border through the acquisition of Bray. Translator's note, this is a locality that had belonged to Lorraine before 1871, but had not been part of that piece of that department lost to Germany at that time. Provides us with military and economic control over Belgium, Courland, and Lithuania, sufficient guarantees for Poland's good conduct, and a defensible colonial empire. The national character and sensitivity of these peoples may be protected as far as possible, but the preservation of our own interests and our future security must always be our top priority. The resolution must be so unambiguous and binding that it is impossible for the parliamentary group in the Reichstag to deviate from it without first consulting the Central Executive Committee. The participation of the National Liberal Party in the further inter-party deliberations is closely related to the peace issue. While negotiations here will not only focus on internal reorientation, just as the peace resolution has brought the current majority together more strongly than internal issues, it will continue to be the real binding force for the majority parties. Dr. Strassman has already stated that the National Liberal Party can only participate in these deliberations with one serious reservation. It does not wish to assume any responsibility for the peace resolution, nor does it wish to participate in any steps taken by the other parties to commit the government even more firmly to this demonstration or to force precise official formulations of the German peace program on this basis. Only the Central Executive Committee can approve this decision. Let the so-called majority parties clean up the mess they have made for themselves on their own. The National Liberal Party must not expose itself to the accusation that it, too, has wavered in its belief in Germany's strength and victory, that it, too, was willing to join in the call for a shaky peace of renunciation, that it, too, lost its head at a time when common stability were most urgently needed. When the day comes when Germany's parties once again appear before their voters, the members of our party must be able to say, we have never wavered in our faith in Germany's strength and future, in our confidence in military leaders, in the achievements of our army and navy, and in the tenacity and determination of our people at home. The first task of the Central Executive Committee must be clearly to tell the German people and the government that the party as a whole stands united in this position. If that is not the case, then the anxious voters that have looked to us since the days in July will turn away and give serious consideration as to whether they can still vote for a party that is not absolutely clear and reliable on the major existential issues of our people. If such a decision is made and receives the necessary attention, then we will be able to confidently enter a new election campaign. If it does not happen, we will inevitably, and we must not deceive ourselves about this, we will lose a large portion of our voters to the right-wing parties. We have taken this article by the well-known Leipzig historian, who is the chairman of the National Liberal State Association in the Kingdom of Saxony, from yesterday's issue of the Deutsche Kurier, the editors. And here we go. The National Liberal Party in the Reichsland. The German Courier takes the floor to make the following comments. The agenda for the meeting of the Central Executive Committee on the National Liberal Party, which will take place on the 23rd of this month, one day before Caporetto, also include the statement on the Alsace-Lorraine question, on which Professor von Kocher, member of the Reichstag, will give the following report. What is the actual situation in Alsace-Lorraine, and how does the National Liberal Party intend to conduct itself? Whether it is a matter of life and death for the German Reich, it is clear that one must not close one's eyes to the great dangers that could threaten our state from this southwestern bulwark, if it is not firmly held in the hands of the Reich's central authority. This is something that is evidently not unclear in National Liberal circles. Do the National Liberals want to take a stand on a threatening development, or should they simply discuss the already accomplished fact academically? According to Bethmann Hollweg's promise, even on questions of war aims, the free people should be free to speak before final decisions are made. Doesn't this apply even more to Alsace-Lorraine? Should decisions of the great significance be made on this matter, as in the Polish and apparently also the Belgian affairs, from above, regardless of the people's opinion, while committing the same follies as in Poland? We would like to believe that the National Liberal Party, before taking a final position on the Alsace-Lorraine question, should familiarize itself with the experiences of the civil and military authorities in Alsace-Lorraine during the war. We doubt whether anyone with knowledge of these facts can assume the responsibility for granting Alsace-Lorraine a position independent of the central government. Let the National Liberal Party be aware that by taking an impulsive position, they could be assuming the responsibility for the careless squandering of what our forefathers have won with their blood. As Premier Panlev's manifesto clearly shows, the French insist on the recovery, or as they say, the annexation of Alsace-Lorraine. The Social Democrats, however, have already precisely formulated their demands regarding the development of the Reich territory to our government through the mouth of the Alsatian deputy ML. As reported yesterday by the Vorwärts Forward newspaper, Deputy ML reported at a Social Democratic meeting in Mulhouse on the Reich Chancellor's intentions in this regard, to create an autonomous federal state. However, among the demands for this transformation, the introduction of a Republican form of government was, of course, not forgotten. Unfortunately, we are not permitted to enter into further details in the discussion of this issue. Wow, that was a dandy and a half. And hopefully at some point get some info on Alsace-Lorraine that's been going around on the Entente side. Anyways, thank you so much, William Arends, and we're off to part 2 at some point. Maybe it's most likely going to be an interest stream for 131, 132. Thanks again.